Hello, and thank you for joining today. I am Nicole Harshman, aka Gabrielle Monroe. Today we are going to talk about an organization that originates in Tennessee that is trying to plant roots here in Western Pennsylvania and how they are inherently harmful to sex trafficking survivors and other vulnerable communities. I signed up for the Eventbrite, as you can see, 10:55 a.m. And by 11:17 a.m., they had canceled the event. At 11:21 a.m., they sent another email with this document. We are going to go through it point by point. So we're going to start with the statistics part. Victims don't fall into one profile category. Trafficking happens mostly to girls, but also happens to boys. Okay, we're not real sure about the statistics of this. Trafficking can happen to any gender. It does appear that it does happen more so to girls and women, but there hasn't been adequate research to substantiate this. The next statistic. The average age is 14. This statistic was put out by Polaris Project. You know, the same Polaris Project that runs the National Human Trafficking Hotline. So Polaris put out this statistic that said the average age of entrance into the life was 14. I forget who it was, but I will find it and stick it in the comments. But an organization or a person held Polaris accountable for this statistic, and Polaris went back and retracted it and said the average age of entry is 19. So here we are. This was back in like 2014 or 2015 this happened, long before I was even in activisming. So Polaris themselves backtracked that age of entry, and it is still being utilized to raise funds for anti-trafficking organizations that are going to save us. Sex trafficking is a $10 billion industry in the U.S. How do we even start to unpack this one? Okay, let me put reality on what this is saying. Okay, I'm going to reword this. Prostitution is a $10 billion industry in the U.S. And they want to find ways to tax us, which most of us pay our taxes anyways, but they want to additionally tax us with licensing fees and whatever sheriff's cards or whatever bullshit they come up with. They want to regulate us. They want to... I don't know. Look at the video on what the Washington State Libertarian Party is pushing in Washington, because this is what they actually want. They want to get their hands into the money. All right, so there's statistics. 2 out of 3 are not even accurate at all. Potential risk factors. Substance abuse, poverty, chronic runaways, truant, homeless youth, kids who have been removed from their families, kids in group homes. The majority of child sex trafficking is happening by family, by parents, by guardians, by foster parents, by our foster care system. And this only begins to touch on kids who have been removed from their families, and kids in group homes. They're not even getting to the root of the abuse. Where is that in this risk factor? None of these potential risk factors are pointing to any sort of support for 5 and 6-year-olds who are being brutally raped and sex trafficked by their parents, guardians, foster parents, or a system. Nothing in here says that. So the risk factors are already leaving out the majority of child sex trafficking. The typical rhetoric here of potential factors doesn't even start to reach the young children who are being abused. Let's move to potential trafficking signs. Dramatic changes in dress or behavior. As someone who has raised 4 teenagers, let me tell you, dramatic changes in dress and behavior is called being a teenager. Teenagers are exploring, they're figuring out who they are, they're trying on different identities. This is a part of being a teenager. So don't even listen to that nonsense. Withdrawal from normal activities such as family outings, sporting events, or church attendance. Why do they even have church on there? So anyways, whatever. Now, withdrawal from normal activities, that could be a sign of something else, a sign of depression, a sign of abuse. It could be, but it also could be a teenager, again, exploring and finding out who they are. Receive generous gifts or money, or has good services done that they can't afford. I don't even know what the hell to say about that. If we're talking about kids who are coming up with money without having a job or something, there needs to be a whole conversation about this. But the problem is the anti-trafficking movement has swung the pendulum so far in their direction that we can't even have real conversations. I was houseless before I was 18. I went to a food bank to get food, and they asked me for my ID to sign me up, so no problem, I give them my ID. It didn't dawn on me that I wasn't 18. They didn't give me food, but they offered to call the cops on me. So I left. So I left with no food, no resources, and a very clear message that unless I complied with what the system thought I should do, I was disposable. So receiving generous gifts and money or goods and services that they can't afford, as far as adults, that's none of your business. If somebody is 18 or over and they're receiving gifts or services or whatever that they can't afford, it's none of your business. None. Okay? So leave it alone. It's not your concern. Lord. Let's move on. Excessive amounts of cash. Again, if they are under 18, if they're a child, then we need to explore a little more. But we do need to open up what that conversation looks like. Because going at a teenager, accusing them of being a child prostitute, which isn't even a thing, like kids can't be prostitutes. Prostitution is a career for ages 18 and up only, much like there are sort of age restrictions with like becoming a surgeon. You can't be a 16-year-old surgeon. Signs of branding, tattoos, jewelry. This is just ridiculous. In their mind, the evil mastermind traffickers that are pulling all of our strings, they're not finding them, they're not arresting them, they're not prosecuting them, they're not getting them off the street, and children are still being abused. Adults are still being abused. But hey, their numbers for prostitution arrests. Anyways. All right, so here is a little bit of fact. It says trafficker. Okay. Trafficker may start out as someone they know. They may seem to be in a stable romantic relationship, sometimes with someone older. Yes, sometimes with someone older. This is, it is romantic sex trafficking, and it is more complicated than, ooh, she's being abused, they're being abused, they should leave. It is a lot more complicated because a lot of times there are romantic feelings involved. And the idea that, oh, if he loves you, he wouldn't abuse you, is complete bullshit. Our society is so entrenched in abusive norms that we need to work through all of that. We have broken people who continue to do certain things because they don't have a path to be okay. So the romantic relationship trafficking, that is a very tough one. And here's all you can do. If you think somebody is in that situation, you could tell them, like, hey, I love you and I am here for you. I see how he treats you and I don't like it, but it's not my business. But I want you to know that I am here for you. Here is my number. You call me anytime. I will come pick you up. Whatever you can offer, let them know. But don't try to save them, because there is a level of infantilization that happens to where adults are labeled too broken, too abused, whatever, to decide for their own good. And the majority of the time, that's not the case. So we don't need to be taking people's agency away from them and making decisions for them. We just need to let them know that we can be there, and whatever they need, we can try to help them find that. Or we can just be an ear when needed, or a ride to the store, or whatever is needed, right? Just be there for people. Okay. Then this one, this makes no sense. Like, I don't even know how they're still pushing this. Getting in and out of cars driven by an unknown adult. Hello, Uber. Hello, Lyft. Hello, jitneys. Hello, unmarked taxi services. Like, what are they even saying here? Sigh. Scripted, restricted, or rehearsed answers to questions or difficulty making eye contact. So I suppose now that everyone who is on the spectrum, who has social awkwardness, does not, like maybe social anxiety. I mean, there's all sorts of reasons why people don't make eye contact. Eye contact is something that I had to force as a new young stripper, because I was told that it would make me more money, and it actually did. So that was something that I had to learn for my career. It was practiced, it was rehearsed, and I still don't do it all the time. I try, but I don't. So what this is actually saying is scripted, restricted, or rehearsed answers. The people on the spectrum, we script things. We intentionally script things so people don't misinterpret what we say and try to tell us that we're saying it in a mean way or a rude way or a dismissive way or whatever way they want to identify, because they don't want to respect our autism or other thing. And they think that we should interact on the level they want us to. So we do scripted and rehearsed dialogue often. This isn't a sign of sex trafficking. Missing schoolwork. Okay, there's lots of reasons for that. That needs so many more questions answered before that could be identified as sex trafficking. Going to an unusual location to meet friends. I'm not sex trafficked right now, and I go to unusual locations to meet people. Like, define unusual location. Signs of physical abuse or untreated medical problems. This does not always mean trafficking. This could be domestic abuse. It could be self-inflicted. Untreated medical problems could be very simply because our medical system, well, it's failed. I mean, for a lack of better way to say it, our medical system still is not, like, autistic friendly. They don't understand autism, most of them. So untreated medical problems, oftentimes for me, I don't like going to the doctor because it's a stressful place for me. Doctors have talked down to me, dismissed me. In the mental health field, they have misdiagnosed me, they have sedated me, they have put me in padded rooms in those straitjackets, they have abused me. So not getting medical attention is more likely because of the mismanagement and mistreatment happening in the medical field that's happened for so long that we just can't deal with that. So it's not a sign of being sex trafficked. A lot of us hate dealing with doctors. Signs of psychological trauma and abuse, including anxiety, fear, depression, panic attacks, suicidal thoughts, or lack of emotion. These are also signs of a pandemic. Traffickers identify potential victims through social media platforms and networks, dating sites, job boards, school, malls, clubs, bars, buses, and train stops. We're going to stop there for a second. The schools and malls, that myth has been busted long ago, along with the social media, the viral social media of an empty baby car seat sitting in a parking lot being a sign of sex trafficking. It is not a sign of sex trafficking. It is just a sign of how ridiculous the anti-trafficking movement has become in an attempt to raise funding for ending sex trafficking. But so far, this organization that has a place in Pittsburgh apparently now, they don't know anything about sex trafficking, according to this document here. What they're doing is teaching people how to target prostitutes. And again, prostitution, not sex trafficking. They're not the same. Prostitution is not sex trafficking. So this last one on traffickers identify potential victims through relational vulnerability. That is the number one way young people, children and young adults are sex trafficked, through relational vulnerability, through, like, this is where the sex trafficking is happening of children. There are no white vans driving around looking to snatch your kiddos off the playground to sell them into sex trafficking across the ocean where you'll never find them again. That's Hollywood. Victims are groomed or enticed through promises of love, acceptance, home, shelter, food, protection, money, lifestyle, gifts, opportunity, fame, attention, adventure, drugs, alcohol. So let's swap this around a little bit. This is how they are saying victims are groomed and enticed. Okay? It just says Victims are groomed or enticed through promises of love, acceptance, home. This kind of sounds like their little safe house for sex trafficking survivors. Shelter, food, protection. Again, money, lifestyle, gifts. Okay, well, they don't give you money, lifestyle, or gifts, but what they will do is they will teach you how not to be a prostitute, as if sex trafficking is prostitution, instead of offering quality rape care and therapy. Like, sex trafficking is a form of rape. So where is this trauma care for that? But they will put you in a career path on how not to be a prostitute. And, oh, yeah, here's the best part. So, this organization, Refugee for Women, if you look on their website, they have a section titled Survivor Made, where you can go buy survivor made things. They're not made in the United States, because I asked at this Refugee for Women, I asked at their last community meeting, you know, the meeting where they called the cops on me, that one. I asked, and they're actually made in other countries where they have sister Refugee for Women organizations. Okay, so they're made there, and they're paid according to their local minimum wage. So they're paid like $3 to then have it shipped here and sold for this American organization to make money. So they're exploiting sex trafficking survivors. They're exploiting sex trafficking survivors in countries that have less labor protections than we do, less labor wages than we do. They make less than we do. I'm sorry. What sort of labor trafficking nonsense is this that Refugee for Women is actually participating in? Why is this organization exploiting sex trafficking survivors in other countries and labor trafficking them based on the, oh, this is how they learn how to work in a normal job. Whatever. Everybody who comes into their space has to be put on Medicaid and government assistance to pay to exploit them. I'm sorry. What? Anyways, sex trafficking and exploitation happens through pornography at hotels, motels, truck stops, via strip clubs, escort services, sexual servitude, at fake massage parlors, on the internet, at brothels. If you'll go back to the majority of child sex trafficking survivors are being sex trafficked by somebody they know, by their parents, guardians, uncles, foster homes, things like this, right? How come none of this sex trafficking and exploitation happens? We would like to pause for this brief interruption to point out the bullshit of this. There are no pimps making $12,000 a week and $1.8 million a year beyond the deceased Dennis Hoff. Thank you. Back to your normal programming. How come none of this sex trafficking and exploitation happens? Does it say in homes, at church, at community organizations? None of that is said here. Everything here is listed of them going directly after sex workers. They have gone beyond going after just prostitutes, but now they are expanding to going after all sex workers. Here's an idea. Just stop arresting sex workers. And by sex workers, I mean prostitutes, because those are the only sex workers that are being arrested. Sex trafficking. Okay, and then down here, who to call? Local police. Okay, if you feel you are in danger and you feel the local police is an option for you, then that might be valid for you. National Trafficking Hotline. Don't ever call them. They only have police resources and lawyers to get you to sue hotels who had no idea that you were being sex trafficked. Yeah, don't call the National Trafficking Hotline because they're just a mess. So here we have this organization where Teresa Golden is from Tennessee, I think, somewhere down in that area. And Teresa Golden is trying to plant roots here in Western Pennsylvania by exploiting people who, I don't know where they would find sex trafficking survivors. Because here in Pennsylvania, you know, in 2020, according to the FBI statistics, they only arrested, like, I want to say maybe 6 or 8 people in the entire year of 2020. And they prosecuted less than that. And not one of them were arrested for child sex trafficking. Not a single one. So instead of mismanaging funding to go after prostitutes and wrap us into these religious save a hooker programs that we don't want, maybe they could actually lobby for us. There is a House Bill 1381, which is an amnesty for sex trafficking survivors and sex workers. So we could very simply walk into the police department, any police department in the state of Pennsylvania, and report our abuser without being arrested or targeted by the police or retaliation. So House Bill 1381 would allow anyone, sex trafficking victim, sex worker, full-service sex worker, any other branch of sex work would all be protected under House Bill 1381. We should not have to have laws that say we're allowed to report violent abusers without retaliatory methods taking place. But unfortunately, that's where we are. So if you're ready to take action, please pick up the phone and call your Pennsylvania House rep and ask them to sign on to House Bill 1381 and ask for a public hearing so sex trafficking survivors and sex workers can be heard in the Pennsylvania House. I would greatly appreciate that. If you do send an email, please BCC me or CC me, whatever you would like, at A, D is in dog, V is in Victor, O is in octopus, Gabby, Gabby, at protonmail.com. I would really appreciate everybody's support. If you have ever lived in Pennsylvania, if you live in Pennsylvania, if you've worked in Pennsylvania, please, please, please contact Pennsylvania House representatives and ask them to support House Bill 1381. Thank you. Have a great day.